A lot of news to discuss here on this morning edition of Dolphins Today. The Buffalo Bills, our division rival, they fired their head coach after another embarrassing and disappointing defeat in the postseason. We'll talk about that. Plus, Miami. We mentioned it on Saturday in a video. Are they closing in on Jeff Hafley today? We'll have the news. I'm Nic Rohloff. This is Dolphins Today by Chat Sports. Let's start with the Bills here because they did fire Sean McDermott. Adam Schefter had the report, and he kind of outlined why Buffalo might have ultimately come to this conclusion. In the era of McDermott and Josh Allen, there was a lot of playoff success, but none when it mattered the most. They never made it to a Super Bowl. They had the most wins in the NFL over the last 5 seasons. Yet they never got past the AFC Championship game. I have a couple immediate takeaways from McDermott being fired. Number one, I'm actually bummed. I really am. And some people may be like, Nick, why are you mad the Bills fired their head coach? It's because I always knew that McDermott was borderline holding this team back. The Buffalo Bills were never going to win a Super Bowl with him as head coach. And you could say maybe the Bills hire someone worse than McDermott. That's certainly possible. But at least they now have the chance to win. And I know you can't blame McDermott for the 5 turnovers on Saturday, 2 from Allen, or multiple from Allen. I think more than that, actually. It was a couple fumbles, an interception, the fumble from James Cook. But when you look at the history of Buffalo in the shortcomings against Mahomes, the 13-second play, I truly think McDermott was holding them back, and now they have an opportunity to go hire a new head coach that might elevate them to Super Bowl status. But this also has a ripple effect on Miami and the NFL, which is my second takeaway, but we'll get to that here in a second. The Miami Dolphins might be hiring a head coach in the next 48 hours. If they do that, we'll have you covered with a live show and a video. So hit that sub button so you don't miss out on the news. 250 away from 80,000 subscribers. Let's get there today. Takeaway number 2 on the McDermott firing. I think the head coach process might slow down. Now, maybe it doesn't for Miami, as they could close in on Jeff Hafley today, as we'll talk about that here in a second. But I don't think it's really a debate that the Buffalo Bills firing Sean McDermott allows that head coaching vacancy to be opened up, and it is the top one available right now. You look at the 8 head coaching openings. We have 2 filled. Atlanta with Kevin Stefanski, that happened Saturday night, and then obviously John Harbaugh with the Giants early last week. The Bills are a better destination, in my opinion, than Baltimore, right? It all starts with the quarterback. You have the best quarterback in football. I do think, as unfortunate as it is to admit, Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the National Football League. Does he have his issues in the postseason? Absolutely does. He turns the ball over a couple times. He's been an unbelievable playoff performer. Couldn't get it done this past Saturday. But that is the number one job opening, in my opinion. And I think this slows things down. And I don't want to be unbiased or biased or whatever you want to call, but I do have Miami at number 6. I don't think we are that attractive of an opening due to the cap situation. But I do believe we're better than Cleveland and Arizona. I have us behind Tennessee and Las Vegas because they have at least their quarterback situation finalized. Cam Ward and Las Vegas Raiders, Fernando Mendoza, and then 3 better franchises, at least over the last decade, in better spots in Baltimore, Pittsburgh, and Buffalo ahead of us here. But I'll say this, and as we talk about how this could slow down the head coach cycle here in the NFL, I don't know if it really slows down Miami. Because if John Eric Sullivan, Stephen Ross, and this ownership group is really sold on Jeff Hafley as a candidate, do the Bills target him? I don't think so. Now, would Hafley be interested in Buffalo? I'm sure he would want to interview with them. But if he feels like the Bills would never really give him a chance, then maybe he just does agree to become the next Dolphins head coach today. Because if you're Buffalo and you fire Sean McDermott, are you going to try to hire a first-time head coach that is defensive-minded again? No. If you're Buffalo, you're probably going with an offensive-minded guy to try to maybe unlock more from Josh Allen and that Bills offense. Or you are going with a head coach that has been in that position before, so you don't have to worry about a first-time guy not being fit for that position in the next couple of years as Josh Allen turns 30, and they need to capitalize on their window that might be coming to a close. So I don't even know if Buffalo will go after Jeff Hafley, which is a good thing potentially for Miami. But let me know, what is it? Your one-word reaction to the Buffalo Bills firing Sean McDermott. Let me know down in the comments section. Mine might be bummed because I really do think he was never going to lead them to a win in the Super Bowl. So I'm bummed that he ultimately is gone. But let's transition now from the Bills and the overall arching conversation in the NFL to the latest on the Dolphins head coaching search, because I do believe Jeff Hafley is going to be our next head coach. I've said that for the last week. I said it at the end of last week, and I was only confirmed in that belief over the weekend as you saw Tom Pelissero, Adam Schefter, both report individually that Hafley is viewed as the front runner for the Dolphins head coaching position, and things could be finalized in the beginnings of this week. Ian Rappaport Monday morning also said on NFL Network that we could see this vacancy be filled in the next 48 hours. Now, that was said before Sean McDermott was fired. I don't know if Rappaport kind of had an inkling that was coming when he said that or did not, so you never know. But it is important to note that Jeff Hafley is having his second interview with Miami in person Monday afternoon. Why is that important to me? Because the Dolphins are now eligible to hire a head coach at any time. As we're filming this, the interviews have not been completed, but the Dolphins will satisfy the Rooney Rule by interviewing two minority head coach candidates in person by Monday morning, Kelvin Shepard and Patrick Graham. Once those two are announced, they're finalized, they're done. Miami is then eligible to hire any head coach they want. With Jeff Hafley being in the building, this could be a very similar situation to the Giants with John Harbaugh. They got him in person. They really liked what they saw. They wanted to finalize, get it done. It could be an Atlanta Falcons situation. They viewed Kevin Stefanski as their top guy. He came into their building Saturday night for his second interview. Guess what? They left. They got it done. I think that is where things are heading here, and we got more on it. But today's show is brought to you by Prize Picks. Guess what, folks? The big game is almost here, and there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. And since the big game is right around the corner, that also means it's your last chance to get into the football action before next season. So close the season out right with Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5. Just pick more or less and at least two player stat projections, and you can cash in. Early payouts as well. If your player gets off to a hot start, you may now have the option to cash out those winnings before the game even finishes. The big game in professional football is still a couple weeks away, but the big game in college football is tonight. I got an entry more than Carson Beck pass attempts, more than Malachi Toney receptions, and more than Omar Cooper Jr. touchdowns. I think he gets into the end zone. Join me and the millions of others on Prize Picks. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. I want to use this back half of the video to talk a little bit more about the search on Jeff Hafley and why I believe Dolphins fans need to calm down and stop being so emotional. Because no matter what you want to say, and I get it, being a fanatic, that's the word of being a fan, right? That's the long version of it, is being a little bit crazy, being really fired up for your team, but also being a little bit dramatic. And that is what Dolphins fans are doing right now when it comes to Jeff Hafley. I saw all weekend long on Twitter, and I get it. It's Twitter. It's not everybody's opinion, on how Jeff Hafley should not be a head coach in the NFL, how he's the worst candidate for the Miami Dolphins, and how nothing is changing inside Miami because they believe that John Eric Sullivan, the new Dolphins GM, is just hiring his best friend Jeff Hafley. Well, I got news for you guys. Hafley and Sullivan are not friends. They happen to work together over the last 2 years. There is a difference between having an admiration for a colleague and believing in his ability and being close personal friends. They didn't know each other 15 years ago, but they got to know each other in Green Bay over the last 2 seasons, and clearly John Eric Sullivan came away impressed. And how are you going to sit there at home and bash Hafley as a head coach candidate when he is one of the most sought-after guys out there? There were 9 head coach openings, now 10 with Buffalo. But he was interviewed as a head coach option by 6 of those teams. And you see it right here in this list. He was requested for a second interview with 4 of them: Miami, Tennessee, Las Vegas, Arizona. All 4 of these teams trying to get Hafley in their building for a second in-person interview. So, are you trying to tell me that you know more than every single person running these head coach searches? I don't think Hafley's the best head coach candidate for the Miami Dolphins. We're going to talk about that. I have him at number 4 in my tier 2 of candidate list. But I'm also not going to be here trying to act like he's the worst head coach option for Miami just because I don't like his haircut, which is what a lot of Dolphins fans are saying in the comments. It's ridiculous. Jeff Hafley has an interview with Tennessee in person scheduled on Tuesday and with the Las Vegas Raiders on Wednesday. We'll see if he schedules one with Arizona. They're trying to get him into their building. You really think he is not a good option for the Dolphins at head coach? If the Dolphins were the only team that wanted him for a second interview, all right, maybe there would be some truth to Sullivan just hiring his buddy. You want to know what the truth is, in my opinion? I think we are lucky that we hired John Eric Sullivan as our general manager, because I do believe in him and his ability to evaluate talent and make the right draft picks, hopefully to build this team for the future. But I think we're lucky to hire him because it gives us the inside track on Hafley. I'm ready to say that. I still think I would hire 3 other guys over Jeff Hafley. But he's clearly one of the most sought-after guys out there. And Miami has the best chance to land him because you hired John Eric Sullivan as your GM. I don't understand why Dolphins fans are so against him, why they don't want to give him a shot. I get it. This has been the worst franchise in the NFL over the last 25 years. It has been. No playoff wins. Only team. Well, there's been a lot of droughts, but we have the longest. I get it. But why can't you be an optimist for one time in your life? Because I do think he's hired later today. If you're watching this on Monday morning or early afternoon, I expect to hire him on Monday evening. I really do. Albert Breer kind of confirms my belief. Packers defensive coordinator Jeff Hafley is going to Tennessee for an interview with the Titans on Tuesday. Raiders and Cardinals are looking to bring him in for second interviews as well. So while this isn't a don't let him leave the building situation like John Harbaugh, there would certainly be some level of risk if Hafley is allowed to board the plane to Nashville on Monday night or Tuesday morning. I mentioned it. Hafley is my 4th candidate. He's in my tier 2 list. I have Jesse Minter and Robert Salah as 1 and 2, Chris Shula at 3, Hafley at 4, Kubiak at 5, Anthony Campanelli at 6. He's my only tier 3 candidate because I wouldn't even consider Joe Brady, Kelvin Shepard, or Patrick Graham. Those would be disasters. Those are not even hireable, in my opinion. But I just can't stand the Dolphins fans that are already writing off Jeff Hafley as an option just because him and our GM had a 2-year working relationship in Green Bay and they don't like the way he looks. He was a real good defensive coordinator in Green Bay over the last 2 years. He has had coaching experience at Boston College. Hard place to win. Had them 500 or better in multiple of his 4 seasons. I get it, man. You guys haven't seen success. We haven't seen it. But let's pump the brakes on trying to trash our potential next head coach just because you don't like the way he looks. Ridiculous. What say you? Grade the hire of Jeff Hafley if it is made official in the next 24, 48 hours. Scale of 1 to 10 down in the comment section. Like I said, we'll see if things change with Sean McDermott being available. Maybe people in Miami would prefer him over Jeff Hafley. I wonder if things slow down. We'll ultimately see if Miami wants to interview Sean McDermott before hiring Jeff Hafley. But you also run the risk of Hafley potentially going to Tennessee or Las Vegas if you don't hire him today when he's in your building. He's one of the final 3 finalists in Tennessee. Robert Salah, Jeff Hafley, Matt Nagy. Those are the final 3 in Tennessee. You let him go to Tennessee on Tuesday, you might not get an opportunity to hire him. You got to make a tough decision on Monday. And we'll be here every step of the way, so make sure you subscribe and join the channel.